Welcome to Vocational Rehabilitation Services 101 with Leanne Russo from IVRS, Resource Manager, and Paige Easton with the Iowa Department of Human Rights Client Assistance Program. This presentation is intended to provide you with a basic overview of vocational rehabilitation. We'll talk about how to connect people you're serving to VR, what services they can provide, how to best partner, and what your role as a case manager can be when you're serving an individual who's also being served by IVRS. What is vocational rehabilitation? Also known as VR. VR services are federally and state funded, with the majority of the funding coming from the federal government through the Rehabilitation Services Administration, which is part of the U.S. Department of Education. The purpose of the program is to help individuals with disabilities find, retain, regain, and advance in employment. In Iowa, we have two state VR agencies, Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Services, or IVRS, and the Department for the Blind. Both are voluntary programs with the rights and responsibilities for participation. And although the programs are similar, the information in this presentation is specific to IVRS. The mission of IVRS is to work for and with individuals who have disabilities to achieve their employment, independence, and economic goals. The agency employs rehabilitation counselors who are trained experts in the provision of rehabilitation services to individuals with disabilities. Employment is the objective for each individual served by IVRS.
And you just heard Paige say how important work is. That's what Voc Rehab is all about. And the ultimate goal of Voc Rehab is competitive integrated employment. So we believe in the value of work that relates to an individual's pay, their hours, and benefits. VR keeps data related to outcomes that involve competitive integrated employment, a job candidate's pay, their hours, and how they are working. These are the tangible data points, but there's also the intangible benefits that include things like new friends, new social networks, and new opportunities for people. So competitive integrated employment is defined as work that is performed on a full-time or part-time basis, and that includes self-employment. And that work is where an individual is compensated at a rate that is not less than minimum wage. It's not less than the customary rate paid by the employer for the same or similar work performed by other employees who don't have disabilities. The job candidate, or JC as IVRS refers to those we serve, similar to the members that the IME or MCOs refer to. The job candidate needs to be eligible for the same level of benefits that are provided to other employees in a competitive integrated environment or employment situation, and it's at a location where the employee interacts with other persons who are not individuals with disabilities. So for that reason, the setting where the competitive integrated employment, or CIE, takes place is critical. So we also want the job candidate presented with opportunities for advancement that are similar to other employees who are in the same company and doing the same type of work. Voc Rehab, just so you know, serves individuals who may have been served in the past, as well as new job candidates who come into our system. An individual's past experience can help provide the direction we need to pursue or eliminate certain occupations. So you've heard it say it takes a village. VR also provides a team to help an individual achieve competitive integrated employment. We work with the job candidate until they're successfully employed, or in some cases, prefer their file closed as unsuccessful. For those who are successfully closed, VR can provide ongoing assistance if there's a need for additional support for up to 4 years past closure. We also support wraparound services for individuals choosing to remain in a sub-minimum wage and participate in workshop settings. An individual can participate in both VR and extended employment through a workshop depending on their age. For supported employment services, ongoing support services is usually provided by the waiver.
So what is the timeline of the process? A referral can be made or an application can be completed and submitted. An individual can also call or walk into IVRS. An intake appointment is scheduled, and sometimes that's the time when the application is completed, particularly if the individual applying needs assistance completing that. From the date of application, the agency has 60 days to determine the person's eligibility for services. From the determination of eligibility, the agency has 90 days to develop the plan for employment. Those timeframes are set in the federal regulations. Once an individual is determined eligible, the order of selection is determined based on the significance of the individual's disability. From there, the plan for employment is developed and the individual moves into service delivery. You can see from the flow chart here that quite a lot happens before the person moves into service delivery. From the start, there is an orientation that's optional for the individual. It gives an overview of what to expect during the VR process. They would submit an application. Sometimes that's done simultaneously at the intake appointment. From there, it starts the eligibility determination process. Once they're determined eligible, they move into plan development, service delivery. They ultimately find employment, and then 90 days after they're stabilized in employment, their case may be closed. So who is eligible for IVRS? There are 3 factors considered when determining eligibility. First, the person must have a disability. Second, the disability must affect the individual's ability to be employed. And third, the person must need VR services in order to work. From there, the order of selection is determined. MSD stands for Most Significantly Disabled, and those are individuals who take priority and do not currently have to wait to receive services. SD stands for Significantly Disabled and are second in priority. Currently, there is a short waiting list, and that waiting list fluctuates. OE stands for Others Eligible. These are individuals who are eligible for services, but their level of significance of their disability does not meet the priority category of MNC or SD. This category is not currently being served by IVRS and hasn't been served since 2009. If individuals are determined OE or Others Eligible, they receive notification and options for alternative supports for employment, such as through the Workforce Development Office. If an individual is receiving Social Security benefits, SSI or SSDI, they're automatically considered eligible and are placed in either the SD or MSD category based on the level of significance of their disability. When should I make a referral? If you're serving an individual who has an interest in exploring competitive employment, whether or not they know what their job goal is, they should be referred to IVRS. If the individual has a guardian, it's helpful to involve that person in the meeting as well. Individuals can be referred at any time using a referral form, via phone call, email, or in person. They can complete the application rather than the referral form, or they can just simply let IVRS know that they would like to receive services, and IVRS will schedule a meeting to complete the application and intake. IVRS is a statewide agency serving individuals in all 99 counties. There are 13 main area offices and 40 field offices across the state. IVRS also has a counselor assigned to every high school in Iowa. Meetings can be arranged at an IVRS office location, a library, a partner agency's office, or another mutually convenient public location. There is an interactive map on the IVRS website that shows which offices serve a particular county. So if you click on a county, it will tell you which area office serves that county and how to connect with that. It also includes the supervisor and staff information.
Okay, this next slide shows the typical services that VR provides, and of course, each job candidate requires different services, so there's no cookie-cutter approach. These are just general services that many of our job candidates receive. The first that's outlined says vocational counseling, and that, for the most part, are is available to any job candidate within VR system. So I feel comfortable saying that everyone who accesses VR services receives some form of vocational counseling. The majority of VR staff are professionally trained rehabilitation counselors. 97% of our counselors have master's degrees in counseling for a closely related field. So the skill and academic training is listed there because almost 40% of VR referrals are coming from schools. Voc Rehab also supports over 30 occupational skills training programs, and in 2016, 63% of VR job candidates increased their education level. This training could include any post-secondary or credential training. It includes community college classes or regions, universities, or institutions. So again, the occupational skills training is something that VR supports, and these are typically provided through the community rehab program. The assisted technology is an aider device. It can be low-tech, can be high-tech, and it's something that would assist the individual job candidate in performing the essential functions of a job and is required in order for them to meet the standard to be employed. So something that needs to be remediated to allow that job candidate to be successful. This is something that VR can purchase or modify or help adapt. The job placement, of course, this is the desired outcome for any job candidate served by VR. We have placement support in every VR office. We also combine forces with Iowa Medicaid Enterprise for job candidates who require supported employment services. And we have a written agreement, a memorandum of understanding that outlines who does what in all supported employment cases. So the services are specialized based on the needs of each job candidate. Some require modifications or adaptions or different types of accommodations. So Voc Rehab helps job candidates with tools, with work equipment, with supplies, uniforms, things like that. And they're charged also to consult with employers. So we consider employers another entity that is served by VR. So our new requirements show that we have businesses as partners within our system, and each VR office is expected to do outreach to employers, talk about how to accommodate individuals with disabilities, the benefit of hiring such individuals, etc. So one of your questions might be, why would I refer to VR if my member is already being served by me and they don't seem to need VR? Well, we provide so many different services that there might be something else that VR could provide to your member. We want to make sure that we're collaborating and communicating in a manner that's done as for the benefit of each member. We don't want to make them jump through the VR hoop if there's not a service we can provide, but most likely they might be able to receive something to offset what you may be providing in your system, or might be other services or equipment or activities that VR could provide that would help them advance in their ultimate search for competitive integrated employment. Okay. The individual plan for employment, this is what we consider as the mini contract between a job candidate and a counselor. It's similar to what's in the Medicaid system with the individual service plan or the person-centered planning development. So it's a signed agreement between Voc Rehab and the individual with the disability who is receiving the services. The IPE, as it's known, outlines the specific job goal being pursued and the services that are required in order for the job candidate to be successful in preparing for obtaining, maintaining, or advancing in employment. So the goal is outlined on the IPE, but that goal can be amended at any time. Our IPE has to be reviewed at least annually, and it should be signed by the job candidate, the VR counselor, or the entity or guardian that they assign to assist them in completing their IPE. So every job candidate who is involved with VR system has an individual plan for employment because we want to know what goals that individual is working on, what services they need, the anticipated time frames, and we want to make sure that we're looking at the progress that a person is making while they're being served by IVRS. All right, the role of the case manager with the IPE development. The world of work is changing, and so is our work as professionals. The new laws place a higher expectation for employment, and that includes attitudes that promote the philosophy of employment first. So I would say that case managers need to be aware of legislation that affects people with disabilities. It's helpful if you participate in forums or disability groups such as the Iowa Coalition for Integration and Employment, because we're asking that you be a resource on resources available. So all your job involves, for the most part, is helping an individual take care of their problems, identify resources that are appropriate to them, and move them forward. So we know that systems changes are taking place all over, so it's important that you be flexible and innovative and aware of what's out there. And we don't want Voc Rehab to be an entity that you don't want to refer to for a person that you feel would need our services. We want to be open and respectful and cognizant of what we can provide and what you provide. So we feel like you will know the individual that you're referring to better than us, so we want you to be part of our team. We want you to also assist in coordinating what services the individual might need with and for them. So in expending VR funds, VR will have a voice in what happens to that individual, but so do you, and most importantly, so does the individual. The menu of service information is the Bible under which we operate when we're contracting out for services. So that's the middle point, or the middle booklet in that slide you see, and the website on which this is found is included as part of this slide. So the menu will outline the memorandum of agreement that's been determined between Voc Rehab and Iowa Medicaid Enterprise. It will outline who pays what for supported employment services. It contains information about all the different service expectations. It outlines the role and responsibilities for the 14 different services that are included as part of our contracting procedures within VR. It also shows how we've aligned our funding with Iowa Medicaid Enterprise for similar services. It includes the forms that are used to ensure that the services are being provided in the manner in which they're intended, and that we're getting the documentation we need to either move forward or step back and see if there's been a breakdown in what's happening with an individual in their quest for competitive integrated employment. The next slide shows the resource sharing guide that's been developed and in place. It provides 3 scenarios because Voc Rehab is the sole funder for individuals who need supported employment and are under age 24. So you'll know that that's different if you've read anything about the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. It goes through age 24, but in terms of supported employment services, Voc Rehab pays the entire cost of the program that includes job development, supported job coaching, and any customized employment that is needed for individuals age 23 and below. So that's one scenario that's listed on that web page within the menu of service manual. The other scenario is for individuals who are age 24 and above, and in those cases, again, it's important to refer to VR just in case an individual needs customized employment, because that's a service that is not traditionally paid for by the waiver, but it is by IVRS. So even if you think that the individual you're serving may not need VR services and they're 24 and above, there may be other services that they would benefit from, especially if they need a uniform or tools and equipment or transportation assistance to get to and from work initially. The other scenario that's listed is for VR individuals or waiver individuals who are eligible for VR but are on a waiver waiting list. And we know that both the waiver and VR have experienced waiting list issues in the past. So for anyone who is on a waiver waiting list and needs supported employment services, regardless of their age, that would be something that VR can fund. Until they come off the waiver, then of course the waiver would be the entity responsible for the supported employment service, but in the interim, VR is the funder. And the role of case managers, I hope it's clear that you know we cannot do it alone. We've worked with the Department of Human Services, Iowa Medicaid Enterprise, and our managed care partners. We want to develop common standards for service. We have aligned our costs and expectations, and I've showed you how we've rated funds. So what else do we need? Well, we need ongoing communication and collaboration to make it work. You know, we're all trying to find ways to align our funding dollars and get the most bang for our buck and to expand our capacity through partnership. So the role of case managers and MCOs, you're both viable partners that all help. And so you can see the areas on the slides in which you can help, refer, and contribute, all towards the betterment of the people that you serve.
That brings us to the conclusion of our presentation today on Vocational Rehabilitation 101. You can find Leanne and Paige's contact information here on the last slide. Thank you again for joining us today.